Live, local, now. This is WIS News 10.
Right now in your news at 4, the University of South Carolina has a new president-elect. You saw the vote live this afternoon right here on WIS.
Yeah, we have been following the story for months now, and the Board of Trustees deciding today retired Lieutenant General Robert Caslen will be the university's 29th president.
Motion passes 11 yes, 8 no, 1 present.
Motion to elect General Caslen as approved.
Meanwhile, opponents have been outspoken, and they gathered today at the USC Alumni Center where the trustees meet.
Shame, 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 shame.
Well, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster took to Twitter to celebrate the decision. He says, quote, "The selection of General Robert Caslen as the next president of the University of South Carolina is a positive and transformative step forward for the future of the university and the state." He goes on to say, "I am confident that every student, alumnus, faculty member, and citizen of this state will benefit from his superior leadership, vision, and direction, which he has demonstrated throughout his remarkable career." Robert Caslen changed his title on Twitter almost immediately. You can see it here. It says President-elect of the University of South Carolina.
Our crews are standing by, and in moments we'll have complete team coverage with reaction to that decision.
All right, but first we have to get the latest on what has been a very hot day outside. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Dominus Brown.
Hey guys, let's talk about that. With the heat and humidity today, we're seeing some isolated showers across the viewing area. You'll see them right here on First Alert Radar. A couple of showers here over the Congaree National Park trying to drift into areas in Sumter County. We've seen some rainfall in parts of Orangeburg County and a few more showers over Newberry County. Mainly a lot of this rainfall is really around us at this point. Check out all the thunderstorms that you're seeing over areas in Georgia with all the lightning. So we're going to keep an opportunity for some wet weather in the forecast here and there over the next few hours, and we will keep an eye out on the radar as well. You'll see rain chances for the weekend around 30% now for Saturday, 20% for Sunday. But look at the rain chances into next week. We've issued alert days for Tuesday and Wednesday to give you a heads up about some heavy rain and maybe some strong thunderstorms by that time period as a cold front moves in. Otherwise, the temperatures will be the big story over the next several days. 92 degrees for Columbia Metropolitan Airport. Feels like 101, but over the next few days, you're going to notice the heat index still on the upward trend around 106 for the weekend. Now, we have some slightly cooler weather to talk about with the numbers in your First Alert 10-day forecast.
All right, Dominus, thanks. Back to our top story of the day. The University of South Carolina has its next president, Robert Caslen. We're bringing you team coverage with Adam Mincer and Jason Raven bringing us reaction from all sides.
Yeah, but first we want to start with our Caroline Hecker. Caroline, you were in board chambers. You've been covering this story for weeks. Take us there and tell us how it was.
Well, Sam, it was a close vote like you guys talked about. 11 yeses, 8 noes, and another Board of Trustee choosing to vote present. And we learned a little bit more about why today's meeting was called. Chairman John Von Lee explaining that he had a significant, as he called it, number of board trustees come to him wanting a vote on Caslen. And he says he also had information to lead him to believe that if they didn't take action on Caslen soon, he was very highly sought after and he wouldn't be around if they chose to approach it again at a later date. But during those open discussions, after they left executive session, we heard from Trustee Charles Williams, who we've heard from a lot, I should say, over the last couple of weeks. He's been very outspoken, and he called on the governor for not being present at the meeting. He says the governor should have to pay a price, in his own words, for the turmoil that he has caused at the university. And overwhelmingly, he was urging his fellow board members not to vote on Caslen as president. Instead, he wanted to start the process over, free of what he calls political influence, which he says Governor McMaster is responsible for this time around. But we also, for the first time, heard from trustees who are in favor of Robert Caslen, particularly State Superintendent Molly Spearman, who came to his defense. She says despite not meeting him when he was here on campus this spring, she took it upon herself to give him a call and says she got a lot of her questions answered.
I was extremely impressed with his ideas and his vision. And I too, after talking and getting to know him better, I believe that we should give this man a chance to be the leader of our university.
Now, Spearman also said that she is not fearful of any kind of jeopardy of the university's accreditation. She says from her experience, you really have to do a lot to have your accreditation taken away. And she believes, she said, that other board members who have talked about that point have really blown it out of proportion. Now, when they first came out of executive session, there was that motion to go ahead and vote on the election of Caslin. But following that, there was another motion made by another trustee, and that would be to indefinitely postpone the vote. However, that motion failed 11-9. In Columbia, Caroline Hecker, WIS News 10.
All right, Caroline, thank you. Right now we turn to Adam Mincer. And Adam, you were in the room where students and others were gathered to await that decision. You heard what happened when one of the trustees said some things into a microphone that happened to be left open. Tell us about that.
That's right, Greg. Right downstairs from where that meeting was happening, about 100, a little bit less, students and faculty were gathered to listen to the live stream and to be able to react as quickly as possible once the vote came down. And they were recording and at the ready right at a moment when one of the Board of Trustees had this to say. Take a listen.
I said a lot of those people that demonstrated are from out of town. I've heard that some of that Camilla Harris crowd there, and they got this thing all tied into the Democratic primary.
So because so many of the Board of Trustees members were able to call in, we can't say for sure who specifically that was, but they hit on a lot of points that really aggravated the room that I was in just a couple hours ago. Points referencing that this was a political process in some way, that there were supporters brought in from different parts of town that aren't associated with the University of South Carolina, that certain campaigns, such as Senator Kamala Harris's campaign, were somewhat involved, and also that this wasn't really having anything to do with what was actually happening here today, that this was all part of a reaction to the Democratic primary. Now, I did speak with some of the organizers that were in that room, and they said that they were able to say fairly confidently that nobody in the room, none of the over 100 protesters that were out here today, weren't associated, so they were associated with the university in some way, either as faculty, students, staff, or family members. Live from downtown Columbia, Adam Mincer, WIS News 10.
All right, Adam, thank you very much for that. We continue our live team coverage with Jason Raven, who is at the USC Alumni Center with more on the reactions from faculty, staff, and students who were there today. Jason?
Well, Greg and Sam, we're here inside of the lobby where the boardroom is, just actually right here. And not that long ago, things were a little crazy, but it's very quiet now. And there were plenty of students and faculty here right outside, and many of them holding signs and waiting for the board's decision. And they listened closely, standing right near the open door as some trustees gave some statements. Now, as the vote came down, you could see them get visibly upset. And as soon as the doors opened and people inside began walking out, the crowd began chanting the words, "Shame." Now, we caught up with a student and a man who was there showing his support for General Caslin.
And I've experienced so many of the high moments and all the great things that we can do, and the fact that today we stooped that low is disappointing for sure.
Even the process may be flawed a little bit, you're trying to get the best person. And that's what happened today. We got the best person that applied.
And yesterday we spoke with Governor Henry McMaster up in Greenville, and he was expecting this decision. He was expecting Caslin to be elected president of the University of South Carolina. From downtown Columbia, Jason Raven, WIS News 10.
All right, Jason, thank you very much. In the meantime, remember, USC Upstate Chancellor Dr. Brendan Kelly will assume the interim president role starting on August 1st. The Board of Trustees made that decision in April after they voted to continue the search for the next president. You can read much more about President-elect Caslin's background. That's on our website, wistv.com. Well, breaking news is first now on your News at 4. A recovery effort is underway for a 5-year-old girl missing since last night. Investigators now believe Nevaeh Adams is dead. It's a sad update in the search that began after her mother's body was found inside their apartment at Lantana Apartments in Sumter. Police were called after a family member found the little girl's mom, 29-year-old Cherie Bradley.
A suspect, 28-year-old Dante Maurice Johnson, was last seen leaving the residence. He is now in custody. Johnson is being held in the Sumter Lee Detention Center and is charged with murder in the death of the mother. Investigators say that Johnson confessed to killing them both and gave officers information on finding the girl's body. Nevaeh has not yet been found.
Well, we have team coverage of the recovery effort and the investigation that is still very much ongoing. Our Caroline Hecker is standing by with information on the suspect. Paul Rivera spoke with family members eager to find out what happened to Nevaeh, and our Jason Raven joins us now with more on this search that is still ongoing. Jason.
Well, Greg and Sam, this was definitely news no one wanted to hear. Police say the man they arrested in connection with the death of Nevaeh's mother admitted to them that Nevaeh is dead. Now, her body has not been found yet, police say. Now, just to recap, Monday evening around 6 p.m., police say a family member found Bradley dead inside a residence at the Lantana Apartments in Sumter. Now, police arrested 28-year-old Dante Maurice Johnson and charged him with murder in Bradley's death. Now, according to police, Johnson told officers he killed Bradley and Adams. Now, he also provided information to officers that would help police find the girl's body. Now, she has not yet been found. Now, Sumter police tell us that they'll be working with local area law enforcement throughout the rest of the day, throughout the evening, until Nevaeh's body is found. Live in Sumter, Jason Raven, WIS News 10.
All right, Jason, thank you very much for that update. We want to continue our live team coverage now with Paul Rivera, who is there at Lantana Apartments. And Paul, I know you just spoke with Nevaeh's father, who says there is going to be a vigil taking place in just about an hour and a half.
And Sammy told me that vigil will be happening at 5:30 at that building you see right behind me. They say that's where her mother, Nevaeh's mother, Cherie, lived. And everybody is going to stand out at that vigil tonight, honoring her, remembering her, also while trying to figure out more information on where Nevaeh might be. Really, just today, he says that he won't accept, what police say is now a recovery effort. He is still keeping hope. Tonight's vigil, though, is a way for the community to come together after these horrible events and to remember. But he says he's also been thankful of how people from all over today came out to look for his daughter. Tonight, I did ask him about his reaction to the news from police, and this is what he said.
I'm not accepting that. I know it's protocol. They have to do that, but I'm not accepting that. You're going to have to show me her still body before I can accept the fact that she's not going to be here. I'm not about to do that.
Still holding hope.
I'm still holding hope. Yes, I got to until I see for myself.
Again, that vigil, according to him, slated for 5:30 at that building right behind me. We'll bring you more coverage as people start to pile in, not only to remember, but to try to learn more news about where Nevaeh might be. We're live in Sumter tonight. Paul Rivera, WIS News 10.
All right, Paul, thank you. And this afternoon, we are also learning more about the man accused of killing 29-year-old Cherie Bradley and her 5-year-old daughter, Nevaeh. Now, as we told you earlier, 28-year-old Dante Johnson is in the Sumter Lee Detention Center charged with Bradley's murder. Our Caroline Hecker joins us live outside that detention center with a look at Johnson's criminal history.
Well, Sam, the Sumter Police Department tells me it's too early to determine whether additional charges will be filed against Johnson, despite police saying that he did, in fact, admit to killing both Bradley and her 5-year-old daughter, Nevaeh. But we also know that this is not his first run-in with the law, as he's been arrested before on other domestic violence-related charges. Now, his criminal background shows that he has spent a lot of time living in the Charlotte area and had 2 arrests, both one in 2015 and one in 2016. That 2015 arrest was for assault, and the 2016 arrest was for domestic violence. I can tell you, based on the warrants coming out of North Carolina for that 2015 case, it alleged that Johnson struck his girlfriend, or his then girlfriend, in the face with a belt, which caused several cuts on her lips. And the warrants from that 2016 arrest allege that he jabbed her in the face with a hair pick. Now, in both cases, we have found Johnson was not convicted of those charges because that victim did not show up to court to testify against him. She told the police, though, in several criminal complaints that she filed, that this kind of violence was very regular. She said it was happening nearly every weekend and that he often threatened to knock her out. Now, Sumter police have also said that Johnson is a suspect in a Missouri homicide. However, they have not given us any additional details about that case, but we do know that he has several family ties to the St. Louis area. Now, Sumter police also telling me today that Bradley's death very violent in nature. They say she suffered a very violent death. Her autopsy scheduled to be completed today. Now, Johnson also told police, as they told us, he identified himself and Bradley as acquaintances, and Sumter police identifying him as just a transient in this area. Live in Sumter County, Caroline Hecker, WIS News 10.
All right, Caroline, thank you. Certainly a lot more to learn there. We will keep you posted. We know Johnson was also arrested several years ago for violating a domestic violence protection order, and investigators say he was found living in a motel with a girl who had filed the order against him. Now, he was arrested and later released. That's according to court documents.
We've gotten several calls into the WIS newsroom and comments on our website and Facebook page asking why an Amber Alert was never issued in this case. We looked into that and found out that law enforcement has to follow federal guidelines before an Amber Alert can be issued. First, there has to be reasonable belief by law enforcement that an abduction has occurred and a belief that the child is in fact alive. An Amber Alert indicates law enforcement believes that the child is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death, and there must be enough descriptive information about the victim and the abduction for law enforcement to issue an Amber Alert to assist in the recovery of the child. The abduction has to be of a child aged 17 years or younger, and the child's name and other critical data elements, including the child abduction flag, have been entered into the National Crime Information Center system. All of this information can be found on the Amber Alert website.
Well, as Paul mentioned, a vigil will be held at the Lantana Apartments at 5:30. That is where Shabri Bradley lived. We will also continue our live team coverage from Sumter. That is ahead on your news at 4:30.